Hello, Miami University and all Oxford community. I'm Sydney Pinchok.
And I'm Tatum Powell, and welcome back to another lecture series interview where it feels like a party every day. Today we are here with American actor and singer Kevin Chamberlin. Thank you so much for having us.
It's so nice to be here.
So, to start off, a large portion of our viewership likely knows you from your role as Bertram on Disney Channel's Jessie. However, you've had a vast career as a performer with numerous roles in television, film, and live theater, including many notable roles on Broadway. How did your performing career begin, and when did you realize it was your passion?
I grew up in a little town called Moorestown in New Jersey, and luckily they had a really good arts program, and I started doing summer theater programs and doing like shows like Oliver and Wizard of Oz and Peter Pan. And I really caught the theater bug then, and then did all the high school musicals and the plays, and then I went to Rutgers and graduated got a BFA in acting, and then moved to New York right after I graduated. I couldn't wait to get started, and the first couple of years were a little tough. And I had to, I was a singing waiter. I did a lot of I was Santa Claus at Macy's. I did a lot of different day jobs to keep myself free to audition, and one of the shows that I did in a regional theater moved to New York off Broadway, and so that's how I did my Broadway debut, or off Broadway debut.
How did you decide on Rutgers for your education?
It was, you're gonna hate me.
Okay.
It was $800 a semester.
Oh, golly. Man.
It was State University, it still is. And I auditioned for a bunch of different schools, and they ranged, even back in 1981, they ranged from 800 was Rutgers, and then, Juilliard was like 10 grand a year. So I chose the latter, the cheaper one, and got out of school debt free.
I can only imagine.
I know.
Yeah,
I know.
That seems like a dream right there. Your career has been a success, which is proven by your many award nominations. Walk us through what feelings or emotions have you had about being a nominee for a Tony 3 times?
Well, it was really unique because the first time I got nominated, the whole cast was nominated for a play called Dirty Blonde. And then for Seussical, I was the only one nominated. And so to come into work the next day, and everyone was like, congratulations. And I had to go, yay, in my dressing room very quietly. Yeah. And then again, it happened with Addams Family. I was the only one nominated, and I really felt guilty. But it is an actor's dream, and it was the third time I thought I was going to win, because I read in the New York Times they predicted that I was going to win. And so I actually had written a speech. The other 2 times I was like, the show had already closed, and so not enough Tony voters got to see it. But the third one I thought I was going to win, and I was like, never prepare yourself. You always have to just go with the flow. Yeah. But it's always been an honor to get it, and you get invited to the party. Yeah. Who doesn't want to get invited to the party?
Absolutely. More recently, you've also had large success on social media, with your TikTok reaching over 11 million followers. What made you get started on TikTok, and did you ever anticipate having such a large viewership there? I
was so anti-social media for the longest time, and I saw when I was doing Jessie how the kids got wrapped up in it, and so they had the haters, and I would see them in tears sometimes from the way some people left really mean comments. So I stayed away from it. Then the pandemic happened, and I needed a creative outlet, and I had a good friend named Sam Kite, who's in the digital advertising world. He was like, you have to create an Instagram account and a TikTok account for publicity, to publicize yourself. And we started doing Dad Joke Saturday and a couple things. And then I'm a composer as well. And the daughter of the president of a grocery store called Sprouts was one of my followers. and she told her dad, Bertram's on TikTok. He should do a Sprouts commercial. So it was all because of this, the daughter of this grocery store president. And I started doing these Sprouts commercials, and I started making a living on TikTok. And then I started doing really creative trending stuff and dances. You should see me trying to learn a TikTok dance. And it just kind of snowballed. And then all of a sudden it was 4 million, 5 million, and just grew and grew. And now I was traveling in Italy. I have followers in Italy, in Japan, in Argentina, Mexico, everywhere. It's wild how the TikTok has a worldwide reach. And it's fun. I get a creative outlet, and I get to write songs.
I wanted to, you address all of this in your one-man cabaret show, Finding the Joy.
Yes.
What made you decide to tell this story, and what made you tell the story in that certain type of format?
I've always been fascinated with cabaret, and I've been asked by numerous cabarets to put together a show. And I kind of have a greatest hits album, being in the business now for 40 years. I have a lot of shows that I debuted songs, and so I did a lot of stuff, and I also got to sing some of my original stuff and tell these stories. I have some wild life stories, from the whole TikTok adventure to Ratatouille we were talking about before, which was the first crowdsourced musical ever done. And if you haven't seen it, it's wonderful. It's on YouTube. You can check it out there. But that's a wild story in and of itself.
Do you have a favorite project that you've gotten to work on through your social media?
Ratatouille really was one of the most rewarding things I've ever done in my whole career. It raised over $2 million for the Actors Fund during the pandemic. A lot of people were hurting, financially, and so it helped a lot of people, and it was a really unique artistic adventure.
Your lecture here today at Miami University is called Be Curious, Be Kind, Be Ready, A Career of Continual Becoming. As a performer, your work is constantly changing as you find new and different things to be part of. Can you talk a little bit about the story and purpose of this lecture and why these things are important to you?
It really came to me that I have been constantly reinventing myself to change with the times, adapt with the times, and evolve as an artist. I mean, I've been everything from Santa Claus at Macy's to now being a producer and director and writer of my own little production company on social media, and everything in between. And it's been out of necessity. I ain't nothing going on but the rent. You got to pay the rent, and when the acting jobs aren't coming in, you have to be creative. And so, and I've got to tap into some talents that I didn't even know I had.
What advice would you give to someone dealing with the struggles of the unknown in their career, both inside the performing industry and out of it?
I think knowledge is power, and you really have to learn everything. If you are going to, my dad always said, if you're going to be a plumber, you should know every pipe. So if you're going to be an actor, you should learn the history of theater. Go to see as many shows, any movies as you can, and really educate yourself. And there's so many dumb actors out there. There really are. I know so many people are like, I was a bad lawyer, so I guess I'm going to be an actor now. And it's just like, really? It's an odd profession that way. It's an odd art form because, I was standing on the set of Jessie next to a 10-year-old, and that 10-year-old's doing the exact same thing that I'm doing. What other art form is there? Unless, there are those brilliant child violinists and things like that, but acting is very unique in that everyone thinks they can do it, and a lot of people do it. There are a lot of untalented people out there, but there's also really talented 10-year-olds that have never had one acting class in their lives. So it's a very unique art form.
And do you have any advice for people who are not looking to get into the performing industry but are also struggling with a changing career?
I would say that the best advice I ever got was to embrace your quirks. Embrace what is quirky about yourself. That is what you can sell about yourself. And don't give power to the people who are hiring you. Take that power in. I always say, the smartest actors that I know walk into a room and really take the space. They're savvy. And I talk about this in my lecture tonight. To be savvy, to be street smart, and to be able to read a room when you walk in. You know those people who walk into a room and they're too chatty, or they're too introverted and insecure. I've seen so many people sabotage themselves when they walk into a room just because they wouldn't stop talking out of nervousness. And the people behind the table were all like, well, we're not going to hire this person. They're crazy. You have to be savvy. You have to read human behavior. It was funny. I was in the car service that you guys provided. You picked me up at the airport today, and I was talking about this with the driver. And I said, you have to be savvy as a driver, don't you? You have to know when to talk to your passenger in the back and when to shut up. And he goes, oh, it's the hardest part of my job. I can immediately tell if I'm starting to make conversation and the person doesn't want to talk. So you have to learn how to read behavior. And it's surprising how many people don't know how to do that. But the best actors read behavior and react off it.
Kevin, thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure getting to speak with you.
You asked great questions.
Thank you. And thank you for tuning in. Make sure to subscribe to our social medias at Red Hawk TV MU, and we'll see you next time.